Alright guys, welcome back once again to another episode in my guide series. I know it's been a while since we've had one of these, and I'm trying to get back into the swing of things so we can get more of them out, etc. But, anyway, as you probably guessed from the title, this video is taking our last discussion on playstyle tuning and giving you some thoughts for a specific experience mode to help you get started on the right foot. We'll obviously have one for each of the modes once I've completed the set. Anyway, so as you probably guessed from the title, we're discussing Pilgrim mode. So what is Pilgrim mode? It's often considered the easiest mode out of the 4 stock experience modes available for survival mode in the Long Dark. It's characterized by lots of available loot, non-hostile wildlife unless you inflict damage, and relatively calm weather. Your status bars, think, your fatigue or your cold, drop slower than the other modes, leaving you ample time to rectify negative situations. So, based off of our last discussion, what are some ways you can tune your playstyle for success in this mode? Well, number one is to simply take your time. This is sometimes counterintuitive for the other modes, but it's actually great advice for Pilgrim, which is designed around pensive exploration. You have time to explore, look around, and enjoy your time in the quiet apocalypse. Number two is cold weather will still be a problem early on due to your lack of gear. However, because of the relative availability of loot and the fact that your stats bars drop slower, you have time to collect proper clothing after visiting a region or two and looting to completion. You should be able to roam about without too much fear of freezing. And number three is that food, matches, and tools are so prevalent that getting to the mid-game takes much longer in a sense. So again, you have time to explore and focus on enjoying the scenery rather than the survival aspects. If I were to start a new Pilgrim run right now, I'd focus on spending all of day one completely clearing whatever region I start in and stockpiling all of the goodies at a central location. Because you don't have to worry about wolves or bears, you can just wander at your heart's content. This changes so many aspects and considerations of the Long Dark that are inherently necessary at the higher difficulties, and without the weight of these early decisions having that kind of long-lasting impact, you have far more wiggle room to make mistakes or just explore and have fun. Especially considering you don't have that hostile wildlife to contend with. Because food and tools are so prevalent about your needs aspect, you'll pretty much only ever really need to worry about water, honestly. And even then, you should be able to find plenty of it lying about so you don't have to cook any. Pilgrim's great for new players who just want to explore and discover the mechanics, and there's plenty who find enough challenge in this mode to satisfy them. However, there's really no challenge for me because of loot, especially the high tier loot. It's just incredibly prevalent, and the early game is such a breeze. Of course, I have the knowledge of where to look for items and how the mechanics work, so it's easy for me, and I realize exactly how it might not be for others, especially when this is your first time in the game. You're just getting in and starting to get a feel for how the game works, where things, how things flow, map knowledge, etc. And so for you, Pilgrim can easily create enough challenge for you to feel satisfied as you're learning the ropes. But for those who have played the game for even a couple of hours or a couple of days, they begin to find Pilgrim far too easy. But that's just my 2 cents on the subject. So some of the biggest takeaways for tuning your playstyle on Pilgrim could be summed up like this. Mistakes aren't as inherently cascading or impactful as they are in other modes because A, the bounty of loot is so incredible that moving to a self-sufficiency level takes a long time because there's so many resources to exhaust, and 2, because your needs bars drop so much slower, you have time to spend whatever on your heart's desires, and you can recover easily from any mistakes, typically. Exploration, rather than caution, should be your main focus. This is a great mode if you like map knowledge and are trying to learn where to find shelter or resources and discover the mechanics of the game. Again, as I've mentioned before, because wildlife is non-aggressive unless you attack first, you can enter any area without fear of retaliation or loss of health and resources. Pilgrim's tuning for weather is rather forgiving, and the global temperature decay rate is so gradual that you shouldn't have any trouble with the cold after your first few days, provided you have the heart to go out and explore on those first few days. As always, I've been Lonelywolf as usual. I hope this guide has been of help to you guys. I know it's pretty straightforward and quicker than most of my guides, but that's because there's so little to really take into account with Pilgrim. Half of the difficulty is removed compared to the other modes when it comes into animals and planning and getting into a self-sufficiency standpoint. So you have the ability and time to focus on just having fun, rather than min-maxing your status and survival against the weather and wolves. As always, I've been Lonelywolf. Stay safe and stay warm out there.